Give me 1 second. I will just copy this right away for all of you who are here, so you have the prayer.
Ha 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 ho.
Excellent. Let me see. Let me just do something else because I don't like the formatting. Give me 1 second. I'll just copy the prayer here. I'll just see if I can upload it into Drive so we can all have the prayer easier. One second. Perfect. So if I put it here, there, there. So everyone, you should be able to see now, if you like to download the prayer that I just put here on the Google link, right? I'm going to send it to you, Seba, so you can also have it. Can you guys access the prayer?
Yes, Lamada, the link is working.
Yep.
Excellent, excellent. So,
Yeah, no problem. Yep.
welcome. Sorry?
I said, yes, got it. Thank you.
Excellent. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to this practice of Zashi Lhamo. So, before we start, I need to contextualize a lot of this practice and why are we giving it and why are we giving this form, right? So, before we do that, because it's a very simple practice, but still a practice of a rightful deity, so we should do everything by the book, right? Which means that the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start and we're going to take refuge, and then I'll explain everything, right? Give me 1 second. So let's relax. Let's zone the A to get into the zone, and then we'll start with the refuge and bodhicitta prayers. Namo Gurube, Namo Devabe, Namo Dakinibe, Namo Gurube, Namo Devabe, Namo Dakinibe, Namo Gurube, Namo Devabe, Namo Dakinibe. Om Bodhicitam Upadayami. Okay, so Welcome to this teaching about Zashi Lhamo and how to work with her. And oh, here I had this image of her just here, but the camera didn't take it. I need to have this here, and I need to have this here. So let me explain briefly. As always, this is not going to be an empowerment, but a prayer and a way of working with her that does not were empowerment. So feel free to interrupt me, to ask questions, whatever you need. I'll be watching the chat, right? So please, at any moment, right? So first of all, why are we doing a prayer of Zashi Lhamo, right? So as you might have been seeing in the last few months, we are, as you know, very concerned about Samaya issues, right? Especially what we are concerned is that people are kind of giving up on it. That's the gist of it. I am looking at schools that used to be like secret, like the Shangpa, and now you can book a tour of Nigumas. You can buy the book. You can get any kind of mahakala you want. You just drop in empowerment, and the empowerment is then at the same time, you know that I'm kind of, as they joke here, kind of the Buddhist Pope. I kind of run this Buddhist network, right, of schools, and we're getting a lot of people, like a lot of consultations about people who are taking these things and then crashing out because, you know, it's like they take it because my feeling is that neither the people giving empowerment nor the people taking empowerment feel that the deities are real. And in a way, and we're going to discuss that, the deities are not real. They're totally imaginary, just like you. But the problem is that people are not there, right? So they're saying, oh no, no, it's just imagination. And then of course they crash because they have the same level of reality that you have. So for you, they are real, of course. So the problem is that this happens a lot. Therefore, I asked Lama Sharap to start teaching like he talked, right, the 108 pujas. Because when I went to talk to the people, I started talking to the people that came to me, right? As a way of trying to help them and say, okay, but why did you took like Mahakala, right? You knew what Mahakala was. Why? And they're like, no, well, they offer it, and you know nobody's giving it openly. And I'm like, okay, but you either believe in the deity, right? In which case, you have to ask yourself, is this for me, right? Or you don't believe in the deity. In which case, why do you even bother to go to take Mahakala? It's like read the mantra online. And we were talking about this, and I was talking about this with Benson, and he mentioned that a lot of people are offering now Zashi Lhamo, which is Kali, you know, mantras online. And then I started running into people doing this on Facebook. If you go to Facebook and you put Zashi Lhamo, you will find sadhanas of her, like mantras openly. And for me, it's kind of stupid, right? Because either if you don't believe in her, it's like, why are you going to do it? Right? But if you believe in her and in the same text that they are sharing, it's not like I am saying this text is it's supposed to be secret. In the same text, it says this text is supposed to be secret. It's like, what are you doing? So I started asking to the protectoress, to Ekajati, who's her main. I'm going to go a little bit about the relationship between Ekajati and her, to kind of give me something, because I know that people are going to practice. Once it's out there, people are going to try to do it. But they're going to have a lot of obstacles. And then they're going to have problems at home, you know, problems with work, and all the obstacles that arise when you have not generated the correct way to work the deities. Just as if I go, I don't know, if I get the smartphone of Donald Trump, President of the United States, and I call him and say, hey, Donnie, my boy, how about you get me some, like a, I don't know, like a aircraft prayer or something for me to play? I'm going to have a visit by someone very soon, right? Probably not a nice visit, but I'm going to have a visit. So it's just like that. There are some protocols that you have to deal with it. So after that, she says, you know, there is a way in which you can show them a prayer. You know, the usual way of working with a prayer and working with sounds to invoke the deity without necessarily committing to a relationship with her. And the problem is, I told them, yes, of course, yes, that's nice. I can write a prayer. The problem is, I need to explain it in a way that people who are right now trying to do a sadhana of everything else, it's going to feel the same and it's going to have as much as impact without dealing with, you know, the tantric part of the mantras and empowerment. Because if I produce something very, very, very like simple and sutric, then they're not going to do it, and they're going to still do the other practice. But at the same time, if I just, you know, translate or a new practice, they're going to break Samaya. So how to do it? So in that case, the Protectoress showed me this very brief upadesha, right, which deals with the rest of Kali in other ways. And if you're already practicing Black Mirror and all the other upadeshas that deal with Kali in our cycle, this is part of it. This is kind of the more public facing part. The good thing is that you don't need to commit in any particular way to do a relationship with her in that sense, but it is something that it can be shared. You can actually, I'm going to post this actually online, so after this, you can share it with anyone, and that's totally okay, right? So, does that make sense, guys? Excellent. So, what you're going to do is you're going to need an altar, basically with an image of her, and what you're going to do is you're going to need a kapala, and especially as the sound that's going to call her, you need to make yourself or get yourself a dead whistle. You know what a dead whistle is? No. I'll send you this. You can print this out, right? Listen to this. How does that sound? Can you hear it, guys? Online?
Sounds like a banshee.
Yes, like a banshee, very much like a banshee. Seba, agárrate uno. We're going to do with Seba this at the same time. Fuerte. Horrible. Quédate con. So it should sound like a banshee. It's like a scream in the far off. It's like a woman screaming in the distance. Did you hear it?
That's wild.
So this is the sound that you're going to make when you want to invoke her. I'll send you the file. You can have this printed on my very nice school design for I think like 50 cents of a dollar. So if you want to sell this, it's going to be personal enterprise. So this is the way you're going to invoke her. An image, a kapala, and this, right? Second thing we need to discuss before we start, it's who is Zashi Lhamo. So Zashi Lhamo, it's part of a series of deities which are called Kali, right? In Tibetan Buddhism. Now, the great problem is that people tend to think of Kali as one thing, right? But Kali, it's a multitude of things, right? Especially the main Kali that we talk about, it's part of, first of all, it's the consort of Mahakala, right? And arises within or practices out of the Mahakala Tantra and within the system of Dharma, within the Dasa Mahavidya, the 10 Mahavidyas. There's Kali is almost like a category, so to speak, of deities, like Mahakala. Mahakala is there is Mahakala, but there's also a lot of Mahakalas, right? And essentially, it is the deity that is kind of the more outsider deity within the system of Sanatana Dharma and Buddhism, especially in Sanatana Dharma. In Sanatana Dharma, you have Shiva, which is the great yogi, Mahadeva in our system, and he has Uma or Parvati, depending on what you want to call her, which essentially it's the proper wife. It's the wife that tames Shiva, the ones that says, Shiva, you fix your hair, you wash those dreads, makes him presentable. You put a nice suit, you come to dinner with the parents. This the one that essentially makes him presentable. But there's also Kali, which is the other wife of Shiva, the one that's a lot more rock and roll. It's like, hey, let's smoke and drink and go fuck in the cemetery. It's kind of the more terrible kind of easy. Because she's that, and because she is traditionally, while Parvati is very clean cut, and if it wasn't because it's an Indian deity, if you would see her on the street, you would think she's a white woman. Because in India, white skin tends to be associated with the higher castes. Kali tends to be very dark. Therefore, especially in the south of India, she's very well regarded. She's regarded as the main deity. In the south of India, because there's more Dravidian influence, people tend to be of darker skin. So, especially in the south of India, she's huge. And because there are so many forms, and there are also some are rise directly into Tantra, right? Like, for example, Troma Nagmo, which means crow the Kali, right? A wrathful Kali. We have a lot of variations. The problem is because people tend to have this kind of Orientalist dream about Kali, mostly about seeing Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, I think it was, right? Where Kali is this big forearm deity where there's the Togi cult, which, it was a colonialist invention, right? The Togis. They were like freedom fighters in India. But because they lost, now they're like this kind of shadowy assassin. They were like the guys who had to fight the colonialists. So because of that, people tend to imagine Kali as this kind of forearm deity. But it has a lot of forms. There are some white Kalis. For example, Pandulum Lamo, Sri Devi, is another form of Kali. Roma Nagmo, the famous Daikini of the Dujom line, right? It's another form of Kali. It's Krota Kali. And Zashi Lhamo, the deity of the tongue, that sometimes is translated as Lashi Lhamo. Drashi means tongued one, because, the traditional image of the tongue. And we're going to show her very simply in this photo, right? This is a traditional way of showing her. But also sometimes she's called Drashi Lhamo. And she's called Drashi Lhamo because, Lashi Lhamo, because there is a temple of the Lashi of the four deities in the Gelug school, which sometimes shows her as the main protectoress of this date, of this tradition. So then you have sometimes Drashi as the tongued one, or Lashi from the temple of Lashi. The goddess, Lhamo means goddess, right? The goddess from the temple of Lashi. No, Erickson, when I had a dream, I have a Kangling, but the vibe is totally different. And basically what the protector says to call me, start finding how a dead whistle works. A dead whistle is something that appears a lot in Mesoamerican culture, but there are some variations in Nepal. And essentially, it has to produce, the main idea, Erickson, it has to be like a very banshee cry, right? That's the idea. So she appears in a lot of forms. Mostly she appears as a worldly deity that's under the command of Ekajati. Save in the cases that she appeared as a transcendent Ankiri, as in Krodekali, as in Troma Nagmo. But most places where she appears with the tongue out is going to be this kind of very wrathful protectoress, right? So the main thing that you have to understand is that we're going to deal with her in these guys, not the guys of Krodekali, not the guys of Pandulum Lhamo, but in these guys of a very worldly protectoress, very terrible protectoress. However, for things that I think have to do more with market forces than any kind of spiritual forces. Now, especially in Singapore, and Benson, please correct me if I'm wrong, but she's regarded mostly as a world deity, which is
Oh yes, that's completely accurate. Completely accurate.
why is that? I asked a couple of people. I asked another scholar that works in the Lashi temple in China, and he gave me a very stupid answer. But I don't know if guys, Benson, you have a better idea why she became a world deity?
Honestly, I cannot say I know. I really don't know, but I have seen that. I think especially among like Chinese communities of Vajrayana Buddhism, she has become incredibly popular. She's like, people treat her like a female Zambala practically.
Yes. So I asked my friend who's working in China, right? Why is she like, she's like the least wealth deity? It's like the deity of, let's go fuck in the cemetery, right? It's like, it's not the deity you want to have like financial advice on, right? It's like Parvati, Uma, yes, totally. She's the deity of wealth that you want to get. It's like the person who knows how to make millions and billions. This is one you want as mentor, not her. And they told me something very interesting. Is that they told me, well, Father, here, especially in the monks that are here, it's a Tibetan temple, but the monks are Chinese, Han Chinese. And they're very much market oriented. So people don't know a lot of deities. Says people who come here, especially two people come here, either Han Chinese on vacation in Tibet, or people who come from the West, usually. So they don't know a lot about Tantra, but they have read about Kali, and that she's a very fearsome goddess. And also they have read about world goddesses. So you have a lot of Sambala forms already in China. But what no one has is a very wrathful, very terrible goddesses that works as a world protector. So for me, he said, this idea is totally new. It happened in the last 10 years, and it started with the abbot, Huang Xinfe, who essentially said, we should say that because everyone comes to see this deity, and they were asking, oh, this deity is wonderful. I'm going to ask her for protection. Where can I go to get money? What's the deity for money? And he once says, right here. And from that, everything became. I don't know if this is true. This is the anecdotal story of a very famous Tibetologist, but it may be very, very well like that. If that's the case, or something else is the case, she is now, as Benson says, almost like Sambala. So we're going to petition her in both places, both aspects. However, let me just be very clear before we start with the petition itself. Still, this worldly, wrathful deity that traditionally has been petitioned for other things. So, yeah, kind of like that, kind of a world hacker. It can work. I have asked her for help in a couple of things, and she has come through, but she has come through in very, like, for example, today we had the first Open Shinkage class. I say bring people who are interested in practicing. She brought people who are doing boxing or kickboxing and wanted to spar with me or my kid to see if they would fit. It's like, it's not going to come 10 people say, oh yes, please teach us, like, very peaceful, let's do this. Like, they're going to bring people who want to fight. And if you fight them, they will practice. If not, so it's kind of always be like that. It's going to always be rough and ready. So just keeping this in mind while we summon her. Before we start, any doubt? Any questions so far? No? Excellent. So let's start. So what we're going to do is we're going to generate ourselves as any deity that you might have. If you share this with people who don't have this, my advice is to tell them to visualize the Buddha Shakyamuni in their heart, right? Always start with taking refuge. We already did it, but you can always teach the basic refuge, which is Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Triratnaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Triratnaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Triratnaya, Om Bodhicitta Utpadayami. However, Ekachatic was very clear that any kind of refuge can work. So if you want to do Theravada refuge, Dharma Buddha Gachami, Dharma Buddha Gachami, Sangha Buddha Gachami, or any variation of it, you go. You set the altar, you put the image there, and the first thing you do is you ring out the whistle 3 times. So we take the whistle, Seba, 3 long pulls. And now we're going to repeat the first line of the prayer 27 times at least. The one that says, Om Sakila Mo Macheng Grupuma. 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 Repeat it with us. Om Sakila Mo Macheng Grupuma. 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 Then we're going to go from the second line to the line that goes gongna 3 times. So follow me. Lamdang choni bardus rung zhugs. Mini me bdag panyam ston. No ring chen chokor to. Dadang zen chen tam kachi norde. Do gang lung na byong parvaton. Kong na krulpa tam kante su sol. lam dam zhong ni bar du zung zu zhu mi gi me bar drag pa yang pa ton nor gi ren chen chu ko to pa to bdag sem chan tam kat ki nor de do gan lung na mi par var tong gog na krul pa tam kan de gu sol la dam song ni bar du srung du shu mi ni me bar drat pa gnyan pa ston nor girin chen skor tu patun sem kan tat kat ki nor de do gan lung na mi byon pal var son bog na krul pa tam kat se du so. And now you repeat 27 times the last line before the dedication. Chakila mo zrung du shuk soha. Chakila mo zrung du shuk soha. Chakila mo zrung du shuk soha. Chakila mo zrung 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 shuk soha. And no one long pull. With that, you have invoked the deity into the image. So for now, you have to behave as the deity is the image, right? So you give offerings to her, you make requests for her in the same way that you would do in any deity. And if you have the transmission and you know how to do the shaking trance that I taught you, for example, in the Mara roast, this is the moment to do it. The main offering to Zashi Lhamo is the shaking trance. You have to do it as long as you can until you fall on the floor, just as like we did it in the. If you don't know it, of course, if you're doing this publicly, you don't do it, or you do it yourself, but you don't explain it. But you should have to do the shaking dance and offer her the energy that comes out, the dance of the gnys that comes out. And she grabs all of this, and then you make the request. Let's do it in English. I'm going to do 3 times the opening close prayer and the middle prayer just to give you the transmission. But in English, it would be Om Zashi Lhamo, Great Mother, Magical Emanation. Om Zashi Lhamo, Great Mother, Magical Emanation. Om Zashi Lhamo, Great Mother, Magical Emanation. Guard the road and the marketplace. Take your seat as protector. With 2 eyes blazing like fire, display your fierce power, scattering the jewels of Dharma and prosperity in every direction. Grant wealth and happiness to myself and all beings. Keep evil desire and misfortune from arising. Let the noble fortune blaze forth. From the heights I supplicate to you. Dispel all illusion and confusion. O Zashi Lhamo, stand as my protector. Swaha. Om Zashi Lhamo, stand as my protector. Swaha. Om Zashi Lhamo, stand as my protector. Swaha. Again, with this, you charge the image. And now you talk to the image to make offerings to her, you make dharmas to her, you can give whatever you want to her. And when you want to finish the prayer, you want to finish the session, it's very simple. So you do the dedication 3 times. We're going to do it 3 times in English, 3 times in Tibetan. Zashi Lhamo Grupadila Temkan Tamchat Nordang Krupala Brasho Nordang da Baibing Rang Yamparsho Srung Baba Cherab Ki Grupar Sho Tangi Chakila Mo Lagi Gumpadila Semkan Tamkat Nordang Krulparla Brasho Nordan Jabay Bing Labya Parjo Drung Baba Sherav Ki Gruparsho Tangi Chakila Mo Lagi Grumpadila Temka Tamken Nordang Krulparla Braksho Nordang Yabay Bing Lav Yarparjo Drumba Gigeba Sher Laki Grupar Sho. By this act of praise and offerings to Zashi Lhamo, may all beings be freed from poverty and illusion. May the blessing of wealth and joy increase, and protection becomes the accomplishment of wisdom. By this act of praise and offerings to Zashi Lhamo, may all beings be freed from poverty and illusions. May the blessings of wealth and joy increase. May protection become the accomplishment of wisdom. By this act of praise and offerings to Zashi Lhamo, may all beings be freed from poverty and illusion. May all the blessings of wealth and joy increase, and may protection become the accomplishment of wisdom. Sarva Mangalam. So, this is the transmission of the prayer itself. Now we have to discuss how to apply it. But so far, so good? Yes? No? Excellent. Questions so far?
Quick question for you, Lama Fede. At the beginning, when you were taking refuge, you mentioned about visualizing. Was it Buddha Shakyamuni? I didn't catch it. Could you?
Yes. For you, And anyone who has a practice of a deity, the idea is that you do this as a deity, right? This form of Zashi Lhamo. Right now it's quite common. A lot of people will do it, but there's always should be borne in mind that it's a wrathful, worldly deity in this form in particular. So you don't want to just go and petition to her, right? I think that what you need to do here is always create some kind of protection. So the first thing that, for example, let me share a little bit of how this came to be. When I started doing this, talking with this to Ekajati, so she's like, okay, generate yourself as me. And then I'm like, I don't know. I think like 10 people I know how to do this, right? Okay, generate yourself as a wrathful deity. And I'm like, but this is kind of a public player. Okay, generate yourself as a deity. And what if they do not have any deity? She says, okay, so at the very least, think that Buddha Shakyamuni is in your heart. And she was very clear about this. Please do not exchange Buddha Shakyamuni for something that's out of the Buddha Dharma. That is, if you want to visualize yourself as Bhatradhara, perfect. Avalokiteshvara, wonderful. Amitabha, perfect. Jesus Christ, no, please. Hecate, yes, she's for us, that's okay. Sun Wukong, yes. No, I don't know. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. All the best for brothers that are Muslim, but this is a worldly Dharmapala, so they're not going to have the long view, right? The view, Mahakala, yes. Ekajati, yes. This form, no. So always Buddha Shakyamuni or Guru Padmasambhava, whichever they prefer, right? My advice is Buddha Shakyamuni. It's kind of the safest option, right? And if I told you, but I'm not Buddhist, don't fight it. Just say, for this practice, let's pretend that you are, right? So that you are okay with the deity. People will say, but I really don't believe in the Buddhas or whatever it is. And say, don't worry, they're illusion. The problem is so you are. So let's do this. For this practice, let's play that we're all illusions. You're praying to the illusion of a Buddha to grant you the illusion of a deity that's going to guard you from your illusory problems. So in this case, let's play act. But if you're doing this publicly, always teach that part. Always do the refuge, right? Don't skip it. Again, I would say that 90% of the problems that arise from the people that are contacting me from taking this kind of empowerments online without no context is, hey, I took the empowerment, but really what I don't know what I believe on. I'm, spiritual, so I pray to, I don't know, Jesus, and then I do this, or I pray to Zeus and the Titans, whatever, right? Or Tiamat, I don't know, whatever it is, and then they get angry. It's this underlying belief of the deities are not real, right? It's just a game of D&D. So why I cannot mix and match to my own desire? You have your desire. That's totally valid. The deities have their desire, and that's also totally valid, right? That's the gist of it. Does that make sense, Erickson?
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure. So if I were to sum it up rather quickly, if you're a practitioner, generate as your Ishtadevata. If it's just a general person, Buddha Shakyamuni in the heart, and proceed.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yes, you're going to. So it's like if you visualize yourself as Odin, right? Woden. Though I would say that Odin has a very strong correlate in Varuna. So you could make that case that Odin and Varuna are almost the same thing, right? Then you can visualize yourself Varuna if you like. But my advice, guys, you want to do the whole everything is the same, you have to understand that you're also the same as everyone else, right? The problem is that every deity is the same and I am the chosen one. That is when the problem starts, right? If all deities are the same and you're the same as everything, the same as a dog and the same as a telephone post, that's okay. You are at that level of view, sure, you do whatever you want. Most people aren't, right? So that's the thing. Second, what this prayer should be used for? mainly for protection. She, as you see, she made very clear, this is for protection, and if you want to increase wealth, it's going to be rough. Just keep it in mind. If you're okay with rough, that's perfectly fine. If you want more, let's call it, here's how I would put it. Imagine that you want to become a millionaire, right? So there are several ways about it. The first and easiest is to be born in the family of millionaires. So that way, it's kind of very easy. But we're too late for that, I guess, all of us. So let's call it simple. Let's say that you want to become a millionaire in the next 5 years. So you could, for example, do okay, I'm going to work a lot, save a lot, then I'm going to go into business school, a very well-paid business school, something like here, San Andres is a very famous university, or Ditela, it's another, where people from very affluent means go. Are you going to be as affluent as them? No, probably not, but you're going to get the contacts that you need to, for example, get into a better paying job, right? You're going to rub shoulders with, directors and CEOs, and then you might get into that. Or I'm going to start my own business. I think that AI and something is good. I'm going to do that. Those ways are not going to be Zashi Lhamo. Zashi Lhamo is going to say, sell drugs. Sell drugs. Sell drugs is easy. It's fast. Drug dealers can do it. Yes, it's risky, but you're going to make money, right? You're going to make money very fast. So always keep that in mind. Now, if you do not want to sell drugs, but you want to be protected from drug dealing, this is the perfect deity for you. If your job or your business is in a rough situation and you want enforced stability, this is the deity for you. If you have a lot of obstacles in your life and you need them steamrolled, this is the deity for you. If you want to launch a children's book with illustrations and be a success, this is not the deity for you, right? Unless the children is a code for fentanyl addicts, in which case, yes, then this is the deity for you. Does that make sense? So having established that she is the deity of the narco, right? Then we need to move on to what other uses. Especially the main two uses that you can petition her is for obstacle clearing and especially for spiritual protection. Whenever you are feeling under attack, whenever you are feeling that you're lacking energy, she's like a shot of adrenaline. When this, yes, Kali Muerte, kinda, you joke, but I saw so many altars. When I went to Mexico, they invited me to their homes. What is the I am edgy combo right now? Is Santísima Muerte, Kali, and usually Yamantaka, right? Something like this. Everything that has a lot of skulls, that is the combo, right? So I'm sure that if I were, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm taking this as a kind of a challenge. Yes. Kali Santísima.
What have I done?
If I yes, what have you done? If I put Kali Santísima Muerte, so I'm finding Imi Garcia. This is in Spanish, right? Kali, Guadalupe, and the Holy is dead. Of course, it's going to be in Mexico. So let me translate. Kali, one of the goddesses more important of the Hindus and Buddhists, is in charge of death, regeneration, and darkness. Therefore, she's the perfect way to show our lady, that is Holy Dead, right? Within the pagans. The pagans are us, guys, in case you need. Yeah. Right? Oh, look at this, so nice. A Kali image as a Mexican icon of the Santísima Muerte. This is wonderful. Erickson, you should do this. You should run this kind of things, because clearly there's, let me just put this. I'm going to send it to you, Erickson, if you like to
Our
share
Lady
it
of Kali Guadalupe.
Yes, of course. There's always people, but please, guys, don't do this. This is a joke, right? Please, under no circumstance, do this, because The Buddhas do not like it. Usually they're like very, very strongly opposed, unless you do it in the correct way, which is invite the deities. We can talk about this in the future, how to invite the deities into mandalas, on all the process. It's a years-long process. I have like a lot of deities that are local here, and I'm slowly, very slowly getting them into the Dharma. The problem is, it's a problem of beliefs, and you know, deities also have their own beliefs. So if the deity is very much pro soul, pro whatever it is, it's going to be a longer cell. If it's not like that, like Hecate, it's going to be a lot shorter, right? Oh, excellent. Hey, Dave, see you. So this is the second thing. Where to practice this? Times for practicing this practice are midday, midnight, or especially blood moons, right? These are the three main dates that you should try to find. Midday, midnight, or blood moons. If you're going to do this on a day, it's going to be usually on Saturday, right? Oh yes, yes. Well, that's the problem. Whistling is kind of a problem. Which brings me to the other aspect, right? Which is where to do it. Now, ideally, this is done in the cemetery, right? Or in cremation grounds. In Argentina, the cremation grounds usually are in the cemetery. But in other countries, for example, in the US, I have found they are not. You have the cremation grounds and then the cemetery itself. If you have to choose, you pick the cremation grounds. For example, in India, you have the ghats, right, that are the view of everyone, but then cemetery somewhere else. If you have to choose, you pick there. If not, it should be somewhere that is either higher than the third floor or lower than the third sub-basement. But these are the three places you have to pick. Either at ground level and a cremation ground, Argentina's cremation ground cemetery, right? Or higher than the third or lower than the third. Up in the ground or down in the sky. She's not a deity of the middle world, so to speak. Which animals you should include in the practice? You should include dogs and should include birds of prey, especially. And vultures if you have them. Here, vultures means condors, so it's very rare. But what I have right here, I fed them today, is a pair of falcons. So that's absolutely wonderful. What you should offer? You should offer any kind of very sweet liquor, especially Fireball. I don't know if you ever had Fireball whiskey. If you hadn't had Fireball, try Fireball. It's a cinnamon whiskey. Or any kind of honey bourbon, for example. And you should offer at least some amount of blood and at least some amount of meat. In my case, because I had a lot of sparring today, I cut all open, so I just tore up a little bit of my cut before everyone was here and I was finishing the altar. But you should offer blood, especially your own blood, right? Please do not sacrifice anything. While it's common and traditional to sacrifice things for Kali, in the Buddhist tradition, the Mahayana tradition, you sacrifice yourself, right? Which is also going to be useful because you're going to learn how the pain of bloodletting happens, right? So if you want to do wrathful things, you have to be always first put yourself in the line. And the third thing is instruments that you can play. The main thing you have to play, and I will send the file, I will send a link to the file, is our dead whistle, right? You should bring the dead whistle here. I will send you how to get it. If you want to get dead whistles from other cultures, that's also okay. Then the second instrument that you should do, excuse me, is this, the damaru, especially this kind of damaru. The big traditional kind. These are associated with Kali. The gist of it is it should double as a djembe. And the main thing you should play on this is the first one, right? Om Zashi Lhamo ma chengul pruma. 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 So with all of this, with the musical offerings plus the physical offerings plus the prayer, you set up the ritual. And remember, this is just the basics. Just the basics is 21, 3, 21, right? You can do it as long as you want. And especially if you already have people who can do the dances, you should do the dances at this point, right? Sorry, 27. 27, 3, 27. Hey, I'm Scott.
Hello.
Hey, I think that you mistook the hour. We're just kind of in the finishing. I'll send you a recording. I'll send the recording though.
No problem.
So let's recap. You gather either at midnight, midday, or on a blood moon, right? You say that's offering of hot liquor and your own blood. You also set the offering of the dead whistle and a little bit of music. Then you do the prayer, you invoke her. Once she's there, you ask the image whatever you want. You want people to kind of get blessed, you touch the image before you do dedication. You touch the image to them. You want people to get protected, you put something in the image to bless it, and then you tie them then. You want, for example, people to get a petition, you gave an offering, you make the petition. You burn the petition underneath the image, so the image takes it. You use the image as the basis of the magic that you want to do. Then you do the dedication and it goes. What can you do? For example, you can bless people, you can bless water and then get to bless people. You can tie cords with her for protection. You can use it as a way of interacting and asking for a particular petition that you burn beneath her. You can use the image to go into a particular kind of work if you need something, for example, in a jar, or if you need to bless a statue, or if you need to build a bottle you can use the image as the deity. Essentially, while you're not finishing with the dedication, the deity is there. Once it's done, it's just an image of the deity. So, any questions? Comments? Anything else?
Quick question. If you cannot get to a cemetery, you cannot get 3 above or 3 below, do not do the practice, or?
I would say do not do the practice.
Okay.
This practice is, let me explain why. The more outer a practice gets, the more it relies on the different synchronicities and things that you need to do in interdependence. That's why the outer tantras, this is even beyond the outer tantras, right? This is kind of a Dharani practice. Let's say the Kriya Tantras has so many vows, so many things that you have to do. You have to wear this kind of clothes. You have to, I forgot. Usually you do this practice either dressed in black, like I am today, or naked. These are the 2 attires that you can do. So the problem is, the outermost you get, the more are you going to be beholden to details of days, details of times, details of whatever. The more inner you move, the more you dispense with that. To the point that in Dzogchen, for example, you don't have to do anything, right? So that's the scale. If we're doing things that are very, very, very much outer practices, then all the details have to be in place for it to work.
So you basically want...
Yes, sorry.
I was going to say, you want the taboo charge to lend the energy to the practice, is what you're saying. The more you can be taboo in that way.
I don't know if taboo,
or is
essentially in the deity, like the deity, it's this, like what you have here, right? This is a shape of the deity, so it's but that's
right.
not the deity by itself. The deity is also the mantras of the deity. And also the deity is the mind of the deity, right? The particular samadhi of the deity. So when you're practicing in an outer way, what you're doing is you're taking the set and the setting, to use, to borrow a phrase from our friends, that the psychonauts. You're getting near the deity through the set and the settings. For example, let's say that we practice kilaya. This is easier. So you want a very strong tone, a tone, someone that nails down things, right? And a very curt tone. For me, a very kilaya movie. I don't know if you ever saw Glengarry Glen Rose.
I'm sorry. Then can you say it again?
Glen Rose, a movie about a play about two salesmen. If not, if you haven't seen it, this is from Robert Adelman. It's wonderful. There is a scene in which there is Adam Baldwin and comes to kind of energize two ailing salesmen, and he gives a very kilaya speech. Has anyone seen it? Not, let me just, I'm going to look for it. Yes. Here it is. Watch it later on. This is, for example, a Bhadra. Exactly. They always be closing. Exactly, Gabe. Just the one. Sorry, no, this is the, sorry, I just recopied the prayer. Let me just hit it. So this is a Bhadra approach. If you want me to define Bhadraness, it's this thing. It's brutal, it's uncompromising. However, if you can relate to that energy, most people will see that and will say, what a horror, this is horrible, this is too brutal, right? However, if you can relate to that energy, it is wonderful. It is just what you needed, right? It is the Bhadra itself, the lightning bolt. Now, what you need to do is to get as close, if you're doing this in another way, you need to get as close to the energy of the deity as possible. And you do that through dancing, through the prayer, and you do that through the visualization, and you do that through the place and the time, right? And the sounds. That's why the death whistles sound horrible, right? It should be something that is fear-inducing, because Kali is fear-inducing. That way, the connection is going to be easier. There's nothing stopping to do this in the tranquility of your own home, just muttering the prayer, yes. But the problem is that the effect is not going to be as strong. So when you practice this, I want you especially to focus on getting the setting right. This might mean that you yourself can do it only, especially if you're going to do it naked, right? That's totally fair. But if you want to do it in public, it should be in a place like this, and it will provoke a reaction. It will generate, even if there's no one there, just from the spirits of the place, you start sounding this. Oh, sorry. You start sounding this, and the spirits of the place will become rattled, right? But that is Kali in a nutshell. It's a very big bag of wasps that are starting to sting something. So you want to summon her in that way. Does that make sense, Erickson?
Oh yeah. It's kind of like a Cho instruction about go to the places that literally frighten you.
Yes, and do frightening things. Because again, you're doing this as a way to invoke her. You're offering your own blood, Erickson. Look at this. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see my cup here?
Mm-hmm.
So you're offering your own blood to her, right? So the idea is that you offer your own blood, and you're already a little bit scary. If you're the person who is dancing naked at midnight in a cremation ground, offering your own blood and calling Kali, you're already a little bit scary. Let me
Yay!
Let me be frank. So that's what we want to do. We want to invoke this place, because that's where we want to go, and that's who we want to summon, right? Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
So Lama Chris was saying, naked at midnight under a blood moon in a cemetery, offering your own blood and whiskey while dancing naked. Yes, sounds like a good time. Remember, if cemetery is closed, you can do it. Also, you can do it at midday, dress in black, right? But if it's sometimes because there's like police or something like this in Singapore, I think it's going to be very difficult. Do it somewhere high, especially if you can do it in the roof of a building. It's going to be wonderful. No, she's Kali. If you get in jail, you have to get out yourself. Again, this is not an easy deity. Which is for me amazing that so many people want to practice this deity. It's like, why? Why don't you practice Parvati, or why don't you practice Jambala? They're a lot easier to practice, but if there is the connection there, then perhaps it is what is necessary. Excellent. Guys, any other question about this? No, you can do the chanting in whichever language you want. You can do it in English, and you can do it, if you like to translate it in any other language, you can do it. The thing is, she made me compose this in Tibetan. I don't know why. Just so you know, I don't speak Tibetan very good. Right now I can translate it as good as I can in my life, because I've been having a lot of practice, but still my spoken Tibetan is very bad. If you give me something to read, I'll read it, no problem. My spoken Tibetan, I have to think about it. But she says, for you, this has to be composed in Tibetan, because this is the link to the Zashi Lhamo, the deity that's in the temple of Lhasa. So you do it in Tibetan. Then you have the translation, and you can translate it into whatever you want. So you can do it in whichever you want. The main idea is that these words, the order of the words, so the implication has to be kept. But if you translate it, that's going to be perfectly all right, Benson. Any other question? If not, thank you so much, everyone, for participating here. I hope that you have liked it. Did you like this practice?
This is so wild. This is a lot wilder than I expected it to be, because the image we get here, right? Like, as I said, here she's treated as like a female Zambala. So to have seen basically like run around naked in the cemetery, right? Yeah, this is a lot wilder than I ever imagined this would be.
Yes, the cool image. Yes, of course, you will get a copy. Let me just put it right here in the Discord. And yes, Benson, it is a lot worse. The problem is that for me, I never have found her. I mean, she appears a lot. It's one of my main protectors, I would say. Right? She's probably, I would say that from all the protectors that I have, one of the most common ones that appears all the time. And yet I don't never that she has appeared. She's anything less that wild, right? She's always been, even the best. There's a couple of forms that are a lot more tame, so to speak, than this one, but they're still wild. And I think that also in the end, if people practice her a lot about this, like very tame Zambala, something like this, in the end, she will kind of spawn a form in that she is very tame, strangely enough, right? The problem is that for me, once she's very tame, she will lose her direct power, so to speak. So I hope that if this happens, it happens in the future, in the far future. For me, I hate when people try to make Tantra tame. It's like, the Tibetans are like very much will blame about this, right? They're like, okay, we want to teach Tantra, but also we want all ladies who have money to kind of buy in, and it must be nice. So yes, Mahakala, well, yes, he's terrifying. He's like a bad biker, but let's make it, he's still a Balogdeshvara, so we can make it a little bit cuter, and we can make him nicer, and yeah, why don't you practice so you kind of get nice things? No, no, it's like the Lord of bad guys. It's like it's like having the Hell's Angels as your protectors, wonderful protectors, absolutely perfect. The ones who want. What you don't want is an Ikebana master for your protector. You want like not a flower arrangement guy, unless they're one of these assassin flower arrangement that only happen in Japan. But most florists that I know here in Argentina can't find their way out of a paperback. So no, you want the biker. You want the biker, and then the flower arrangement guy can be for flower arrangement. But it's like, no, we want the flower arrangement as a protector and also as a well deity. So, well, I don't know. I don't know. This is my version of it. So I hope that you guys like it. Well, guys, if we don't talk anything, we're going to go to the beginning of the year. You're going to get a couple of news, a lot of news in the next way station, including, and let me spoil you a little bit, we're going to go quarterly with the way station, not in the sense that there's going to be one each quarter, but we're going to have all the events drawn up 1 quarter ahead, so you can plan them in time. And this is thank you, Lama Scott. This is all through his great efforts. So you have him to thank for this. And you're going to get a lot of news very soon, probably on Tuesday or Thursday. But if we don't talk, have a wonderful beginning of 2026. And might be what all beings need. Thank you so much, guys.